my wife said, "I forgot your birthday." I followed her and saw her go to the hotel. I sat there, frozen in disbelief, my cold coffee sitting untouched in front of me. I don't even remember picking it up, but there it was, a half-filled mug that seemed to mock me. My mind kept replaying the words she had just said. "I forgot your birthday." I hadn't asked for much, just some acknowledgement, maybe a card, or even a simple happy birthday would have sufficed. But nothing. It wasn't the first time she'd let me down. It wasn't even the second or third. Over the years, there had been small signs, little cracks I'd ignored because I didn't want to see the bigger picture. But this felt like a slap in the face. My stomach twisted, and I felt a knot tightening in my chest. The clock ticked on, but the world felt silent. Hours dragged by. She didn't even say it with any real regret. She just shrugged it off, too distracted by her phone. A message flashed on my screen from my brother. "Happy 30th, dude! What did Emily get you?" It hit me like a punch in the gut. She hadn't forgotten. She just didn't care. My stomach churned, and for a moment I couldn't breathe. It was like a switch had flipped inside me, and suddenly, the weight of all the neglect, all the small betrayals over the years, came crashing down. It wasn't about the birthday anymore. It was about everything. I glanced at my phone, and her number was on the screen. I called her, but it went straight to voicemail. Again and again I called, but she never answered. It's funny how quickly your mind can spiral into suspicion. Something in me just knew. I opened the location sharing app she loved so much, the one I had grudgingly agreed to because it's convenient, and it's for safety. The dot on the map moved slowly, heading downtown. Not to a restaurant, not to a spa. A hotel. I should have done what any reasonable person would do in this situation. I should have driven straight to the hotel, burst in there, and demanded answers. But for some reason I didn't. Maybe it was because I didn't want to give her the satisfaction of seeing me fall apart. Maybe I just wanted to be calm, even if it was the last bit of dignity I had left. Instead, I pulled up the hotel's number. I called the front desk. My voice was steady, too steady, and I'm not sure why, but I almost felt detached. "Hi, can I send a birthday cake to room 304? I asked. "Sure," the receptionist responded cheerfully. "What's the message?" There was a pause. My mind raced. I thought about all the years I'd given her, the years I'd put my love, my heart, my trust into someone who couldn't even remember my birthday. The anger didn't hit me all at once. It built up, slow and steady, until it felt like a storm brewing inside me. "Happy birthday," I said. "Good luck with your divorce." There was silence on the other end of the line. The receptionist hesitated. "Are you sure?" "Yes," I thought. "I'm sure." "Absolutely," I replied, my voice flat. The words hung in the air, but I felt a sense of cold satisfaction wash over me. As the hotel staff prepared the cake, I dialed another number, my coworker's divorce lawyer. I didn't panic. I didn't scream. I didn't even feel the rage I expected to feel. I just felt numb, like I was watching everything from a distance, detached, yet strangely in control. I could hear the lawyer's voice on the other end, calm and professional as he confirmed an appointment for the next day. I kept the conversation short, efficient. I didn't need to say much, just enough to get the ball rolling. I didn't want to sit in this limbo of pain and confusion for any longer. The cake arrived at the hotel shortly after 5 p.m. I sat there, sipping my coffee, watching the sun set slowly outside the window. Her calls came through, one after another, then texts. "Where are you? Why aren't you answering? What's wrong with you?" I didn't reply. The screen flashed with her name, with her frantic messages, but I didn't respond. Each missed call felt like a weight lifting off my shoulders. Every text she sent, every plea, was just another reminder of the years I had spent ignoring the truth. And then, as if on cue, her friend's number appeared on the screen. I picked it up. "Are you seriously doing this?" the woman snapped, her voice sharp with indignation. "You humiliated her in front of everyone." I stared at the phone, unfazed. "Everyone?" I asked, my tone flat. "I thought she was just out with the girls." "She is," the woman continued, clearly flustered. "But you can't just send a cake with a note like that. It's cruel." I didn't flinch. I just said, "Great. She can have better than this marriage." And I hung up. The phone buzzed again. More texts. More calls. I didn't answer. I knew what I had to do. Tomorrow, I would go see the lawyer. I'd take the first steps towards ending this charade, this life I had lived with her for the last few years. The silence in the room was deafening, but for the first time in a long time, it felt right. Emily came home later that night, her keys jangling in the silence. She didn't say anything at first, but her presence was undeniable. "What the hell happened?" she asked, her voice strained, like she was trying to keep it together. I didn't flinch. I didn't react. I just took another sip of my beer, staring at the TV. "A cake," I said, almost casually. "For my birthday. Since you forgot." She frowned, her brow furrowing. "I didn't forget. I was planning a surprise for you." "At a hotel?" I asked, my voice calm. "In room 304? Her face went pale. She stammered. "It's not what you think, no, Emily. It's exactly what I think." I crossed my arms, sitting back. Why was my wife spending my birthday at a hotel with someone who isn't me? The excuses started coming fast. Her friend rented the room to keep drinking, she said. Who rented it? She went quiet. And that silence? It told me everything I needed to know. I stood up. "I have an appointment with a lawyer tomorrow. You should get one too." She froze. Then she started crying. "You're divorcing me over a misunderstanding?" I almost laughed. It wasn't a misunderstanding. This was a pattern, one I'd ignored for too long. I took a deep breath, staring at her as she sobbed in front of me. I stepped back, finally saying the words I should have said long ago. "Watch me." And with that I left her there. I locked myself in the living room for the night, finally getting my first peaceful sleep in months. It wasn't out of spite. It was because I realized, for the first time in a long time, that I deserved more than empty promises, more than lies, and certainly more than a birthday spent alone. Tomorrow would be the first day of the rest of my life. The cake had been delivered. The words on the card, "Happy birthday. Good luck with your divorce," echoed in my mind like a mantra. I had expected something, anger, screaming, maybe even tears, but I was met with a kind of suffocating silence. I had pushed her into a corner, and now she was trapped in it, her lies swirling around her like a thick fog. For a moment I wondered if I had gone too far. Had I really crossed the line? Was this the right way to handle things? But when my phone lit up again, all those doubts disappeared. It was her. "Why aren't you answering? We need to talk. What's wrong with you?" She called me. I declined. She called again. Declined. 4 more times. Each missed call felt like a victory, a sign that I wasn't the desperate one this time. I wasn't the one who needed answers. She was. And then, an unknown number appeared on my screen. Without thinking, I picked it up. A woman's voice snapped through the phone, sharp and accusatory. "What the hell is wrong with you? You've humiliated her in front of everyone." I froze for a second, trying to piece together the meaning of her words. Everyone? What was she talking about? I couldn't hold back the sarcasm. Everyone? I thought she was just out with the girls. The woman on the other end of the line went silent for a beat. Then she pressed on. "You don't get it, do you? She's been through enough, and now you're doing this, sending that cake with that message." Her voice wavered, but it was laced with judgment. "You embarrassed her." I leaned back in my chair, my mind clear now, no longer weighed down by confusion or the hurt I had felt earlier. "She can keep everyone," I said coolly. "But I won't." The line went dead. I didn't have to explain myself anymore. I had made my decision. And now, I was going to follow through with it. I didn't respond to her calls. I didn't care about the sobs or the accusations. In fact, I welcomed the quiet. The calm that was finally settling over me was something I hadn't felt in months, maybe even years. The night dragged on, each second feeling heavier than the last. And then, at 7 p.m., the phone buzzed again. It was my lawyer. I picked up the phone, already knowing what he was going to say. "I saw the screenshots," he said, a chuckle in his voice. "You really did send a cake with that message, huh?" "I did," I replied. "Was that a mistake?" The lawyer laughed again. "Not at all. Honestly, I think it was kind of brilliant. Look, come in tomorrow at 9. We'll get this all sorted out. It'll be a simple case, but we need to start the process now." "All right," I said, my voice steady. I'll be there. We hung up. The sound of her voice calling my name, pleading, demanding, was nothing but white noise. It didn't matter anymore. By the time Emily came home, the anger had mostly faded from her face. What I saw in her eyes wasn't guilt or remorse, it was fury. She slammed the door behind her, her footsteps echoing through the house as she stormed into the living room. "What the hell happened?" she demanded, her voice a mixture of panic and anger. I didn't flinch. I didn't even look up from the TV. I knew exactly where this conversation was going, and I wasn't in the mood for drama. "A cake," I said flatly. "For my birthday. Since you forgot." She blinked at me, her lips trembling. "I didn't forget. I was planning a surprise for you," she insisted. The words tumbled out like a rehearsed script, one I'd heard too many times before. "Surprise?" I asked, raising an eyebrow. "At a hotel? In room 304? Her face went pale. I could see her trying to form an excuse, but the words caught in her throat. She stammered something about someone renting the room for a party, but I wasn't buying it. I stood up slowly, the weight of the moment sinking in. "Who rented it, Emily?" I asked. "Who booked the room?" Her silence answered for her. "I'll take that as a no," I said, the coldness in my voice cutting through the tension in the room. I crossed my arms, staring at her. "Why don't you tell me the truth for once? You and I both know it wasn't just some party." She opened her mouth, probably trying to form another lie, but I wasn't interested in hearing any more. I was done. "I've got a lawyer appointment tomorrow," I continued, not breaking eye contact. "You should get one too. You'll need it." Her face crumpled. Tears started streaming down her cheeks. "You can't do this," she sobbed, her voice shaking. "You're divorcing me over a misunderstanding?" I almost laughed at the absurdity of it. This wasn't a misunderstanding. This was a pattern. This was neglect. This was betrayal. This was her choosing someone else, again and again, over me. I took a deep breath and let it out slowly. "You forgot my birthday, you spent the day at a hotel with someone else, and you can't even tell me who booked the room. This isn't a misunderstanding, it's a habit." She reached for me, her hands trembling. "Please," she cried. "You can't throw away 4 years of marriage like this." I stepped back, feeling nothing but exhaustion. "Watch me." I turned and walked away, heading straight to the guest room. I locked the door behind me, my heart pounding in my chest, but strangely, for the first time in months, it wasn't from fear or hurt. It was from something else, something that felt like freedom. The house was quiet now. And that, for the first time, felt like peace. I could hear her sobbing in the hallway, but I didn't move. I stayed where I was. For the first time in a long time, I had made a choice. And it felt like I was finally starting to take control of my own life. I lay in bed that night, the silence around me almost deafening. But in that silence, I found something I hadn't felt in so long, relief. Tomorrow, I would go to the lawyer. And tomorrow, I would start over. The next morning, the weight of what had happened still lingered, but it wasn't the crushing weight of confusion or pain. It was the weight of clarity. I had made my decision, and I was going to follow through with it. I woke up early, still in the guest room, the door locked behind me as if keeping the rest of the world out. I didn't want to face Emily right away. I didn't want to hear more excuses or sobs. I just needed to move forward. It was almost like I was seeing everything through a new lens now, clearer, sharper, without all the emotional fog that had clouded my judgment for years. I got dressed, took a deep breath, and drove to the lawyer's office. I wasn't nervous anymore. In fact, I felt oddly calm. A little part of me had expected to feel anxious, to question if I was doing the right thing, but I didn't. The doubts were gone. I was doing the only thing I could do now, protecting myself. When I arrived, I walked into the lawyer's office, and there he was, waiting for me with a smile that seemed to say, "I've seen this before." He gestured to the chair across from him. "Good morning," he said, his tone almost too casual, like he already knew everything that had happened. I sat down, placing the file with all the screenshots, text messages, and receipts in front of him. It was a stack of proof of everything I'd suspected but had never been able to confirm until now. "You weren't kidding," he said, flipping through the papers. "It's pretty clear-cut. She's been checked out of this marriage for a while. You have every right to move forward with the divorce." I nodded, still calm, still detached. It was surreal to hear someone else validate what I'd known deep down all along. The lawyer looked up at me. The next step is simple. We'll file the paperwork today, and in a couple of weeks, it will all be official. There's no need for a drawn-out process. With everything you've got here, it'll be a straightforward case. I sat back in the chair, feeling the weight lift off my shoulders. This wasn't just about ending a marriage. This was about starting over. This was about taking control of my life, and leaving behind a past that had done nothing but drain me. When I left the lawyer's office, I felt lighter, like I could breathe again. I wasn't going to fight for someone who hadn't fought for me. I wasn't going to hold on to something that was already long gone. The days that followed were strangely peaceful. I didn't talk to Emily much, only when necessary. She would call, and I would ignore her. She sent texts, and I would delete them without reading. It was a strange kind of relief, almost like I had been holding my breath for years and could finally exhale. But then, one evening, about a week after I'd met with the lawyer, Emily showed up at the house. I hadn't been expecting it, but there she was, standing in the doorway, looking like a ghost of the person she used to be. She didn't knock. She didn't call ahead. She just barged in. "I need to talk to you," she said, her voice shaky. I didn't flinch. I didn't react. I just stared at her. "What do you want, Emily?" She seemed to shrink under my gaze, as if she wasn't expecting me to be so calm. Or maybe she was hoping for some sort of emotional outburst. But I didn't give her that. I came to apologize," she said, her voice barely above a whisper. "I know I've messed up. I made a huge mistake. I was stupid. I was selfish. Please, can we talk about this?" I took a deep breath, considering her words. I had been angry, so angry, when I first found out the truth. But now, I wasn't sure if I even cared anymore. "You're too late," I said flatly. "You don't get to apologize after everything you've done. After everything you've put me through. You don't get to come in here and pretend like it's all just a misunderstanding." Her face crumpled. "It wasn't just a misunderstanding," she admitted, tears welling in her eyes. "I've been seeing someone else. Someone at the gym. I wasn't thinking straight, and I hurt you." I took a step back, crossing my arms. "I already know about him. Dan, right?" Her face turned white. How did you know?" I smiled coldly. "I've got everything. The texts, the pictures. I even know about the hotel room. Don't try to deny it anymore. You've made your choices." She stood there shaking, her sobs filling the space between us. "I'm pregnant," she blurted out suddenly. The words hit me like a punch to the gut. I froze for a moment, my mind racing as I thought back to the timeline of everything. I didn't know what to say. "Is it mine?" I asked, the question coming out quieter than I intended. She hesitated, then looked away, unable to meet my eyes. "I don't know. But I know it's your fault." I clenched my jaw. "I don't care. This is done. I'm done." I grabbed my phone and dialed the lawyer's number. I handed Emily the phone as it rang. "Here," I said. "Talk to him. You can figure out the details of the divorce with him." As she took the phone, I walked to the door, not looking back. I felt no anger, no frustration, just nothing. I had walked away from a marriage that had been over long before I ever realized it. A few weeks later, the divorce was finalized. It was quick, clean, and the house was sold. Emily took her share, and I took mine. There were no messy battles over the pinball machines, no long-winded courtroom drama. She left with her dignity shattered, and I walked away with everything I had worked for. I moved into a small apartment. It was modest, quiet, and mine. I didn't need anything else. I fixed my pinball machines, rearranged the living room, and settled into my new life, piece by piece. I called my brother. We went out for wings and beer like we used to before everything fell apart. Then one night, a month after the divorce, I met someone new. Her name was Sarah. She was different, easygoing, no drama, and she knew more about pinball machines than anyone I'd ever met. We hit it off immediately. We took our time. There was no rush. No pressure. No baggage. Just two people starting fresh. And that was the best part. No lies, no deception. Just a clean slate. As for Emily? She emailed me one last time, apologizing, begging for my forgiveness. I didn't respond. Silence was all the closure I needed. I had chosen myself. I had walked away from the lies, the deceit, and the broken promises. And finally, for the first time in years, I could breathe easy.